right, yeah, there you have it. Go make a difference. And I'm talking about a difference at this point. We're getting pushed back now for the approved tariff hike. That's by the NCC. Let's talk to Mr. Bismarck Urani now, CEO of Financial Derivatives Company. Great to have you on the show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Vladi. Good morning to all.
Yeah, so it's still all about the tariff hike at this point. Now we're getting pushback now from the NLC, TUC, CNG. They're rejecting the 50% tariff hike. They've described it as outrageous at this point, lamenting that it will worsen the harsh living conditions, for consumers and workers. So talk to me about this pushback. How are you seeing it?
That is to be expected. The reaction of unions and industrial relations experts is always to push back on any price increase, because the price increase actually means a reduction in disposable income of the consumers. But like we said last week and this week as well, Nigeria, the consumer is becoming a king, in the sense that if the increase is matched by an increase in productivity and output, then you things get balanced out. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing cost recovery. In other words, since 2013 to date, cumulative inflation is over 150%. The providers asked for 100%, and the NCC approved 50%. So 50% divided by the past 10 years comes to an average of 5% a year, right? So basically, what you had is a 5% increase. But the solution to this problem is that there should be more periodic reviews, either upwards or downwards. And the quality of service, like you said, you just announced that the NCC and the Consumer Protection Agency is insisting on quality of service. But I want you to understand it in this context, that if I started a call, the first few minutes I have a higher tariff than the later minutes, and the call drops, then I go back again to start that call. So if in 15 minutes I had 3 drop calls, I'll find that a 15-minute call where I would have been having a tariff, marginal tariff of about 3 naira or 4 naira per minute, I'm back to the 18 naira per minute at the beginning. So you find that while in real terms, right, there's an increase in the cost per unit, in reality, effective cost per unit is almost the same. When you now look at the average revenue per user, the cost of providing that call, the capex that has been invested in that sector, you'll find that the quality of service, the increase, the coverage across the country means that, generally speaking, you might have an increase. But in any case, to start with, every cost increase there'll be pushback from the consumer, because nobody wants to pay more for what it had been paying all along. Now the question is, how do we hold the providers, the MNOs, to ensure that, one, people get quality and people get value for the money? That's the key thing. So we want, while we have met them, 50, half enough is better than none, 50% of the request, we now have to hold them to their word that quality would improve and that actually the service itself and the coverage across the country will improve. I think that's a key thing. But if I was to come back to discuss for a minute what is happening in the commodity space, and I think that is very, very important for this program. We have seen in the last week, even though it's what we call the January effect, we've seen a very substantial reduction in price of certain commodities. For example, beans has come down to 100,000 naira, and that was as high as 140,000, 150,000 before now, that in November and December. Rice is down to 105. Rice had gone up to 120. It's now down by 5% to 105,000 naira. Palm oil came down by 13% to 9,500. And sugar has actually come down by 5% more or less to 81,000. Onions is down by 8% to 220,000. What are we saying here? One is the planting season, so prices should actually be increasing, but we're seeing prices coming down. What are we saying here is that people are now beginning to have the full effect of an increase in other prices and a reduction in taxes and subsidies on their income. And now people are beginning to buy less and look for alternatives, substitute them at, and that is very significant. In all of this, we've seen that the Naira depreciated to 1675. Typically, in a normal cycle, in December, the Naira appreciates because of visiting friends and relatives. It also appreciates because that's the cocoa main crop harvest. So the dollars come in. Now, we've seen that happen, but the Naira did not actually appreciate, but the Naira stopped depreciating. Now, we are beginning to see early signs of some depreciation. But the difference between this year and last year was, at this time last year, in January 2024, the interest rates were much lower and so it was in February 2024 that the Cardoso team moved in and pushed up rates for the first time at 400 basis points. So it is by February this year, that is next month, that we begin to see the base effect disappear, and you now see that the currency has stayed stable in terms of its volatility.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rani, you actually led me to my next question. I saw on the slide there about the notable price drops with most of these commodities. So looking at, is this a seasonal thing, or is this a trend we're going to see, continue in the first quarter of 2025?
No, you see what has happened is that, let us look at what's happening to them. I want to talk about the price of petrol. First of all, the rumor that NNPC has actually increased their price to 960. It's not official. NNPC is quite capable of issuing their releases and their statement. The actual price of MRS, Hanover, and Hayden is 970 naira. And like I said during the last session, the increase of 12%, 7% of that increase has been absorbed by the Dangote refinery. Only 5%, so 5.6% was passed on to the market. What is also more interesting is that the price of crude, as you just announced, that Brent is now down to 79. At the time the prices were being announced earlier on, the price of crude was $70 a barrel. It's now gone up by almost 11 or 12%. So the cost of crude, the cost of processing, the cost of refining, and the cost of transportation of this commodity to different parts of the country. And what is more interesting is that you will see, the rumor says, and we cannot rely entirely on rumors, that in Abuja, NNPC is going to be selling at 990, while in Lagos, they'll be selling at 960. We haven't got any official statement, but the Dangote refinery is using uniform pricing. In other words, the price in Warri is the same as the price in Kano, same as the price in Kaduna, same as the price in Port Harcourt. To achieve uniform pricing, the federal government in the past had what we call a Petroleum Equalization Fund, which was used to bridge these commodities across the country to ensure that you have uniform pricing. That is over. The federal government is no longer doing that. And the only people that can do it that are now the refiners themselves. So you have the modular refineries, you have the NNPC refinery, you have the Dangote refinery, which is the price leader. What Dangote refinery has done, from all the information available to us, is that they have guaranteed quality and quantity and a price across the country. Uniform pricing is very, very important to minimize inflation. And you would see that the rate of inflation will begin to taper as we go into the months of February. One, because prices are beginning to drop marginally after the December rush. And secondly, we are still or yet to see the effect of the reconstruction of the inflation basket. But there are very interesting days ahead, and we need to watch it.
Yeah, very interesting days. Definitely, we see price movements. The NNPC comes up with a price, then we see the Dangote refinery come up with another price. But I get so much to look out for.
There is competition. There is competition. Competition is good for the market. And what is more important to everybody is that 50%, more than 50% of the cost increases is being absorbed by the Dangote refinery as against in other markets. I think that's very important to bear in mind.
All right, competition, definitely what we need at this point. Thank you so much, Mr. Bezbakawani. Always great having your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we get an outlook. That's for fintech in Nigeria. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.